I was scrolling through Twitter when my phone buzzed with an alert. Not the regular kind that tells you someone liked your post or whatever. This was that emergency alert sound. You know, the one that makes your whole phone go crazy. I picked it up and checked the screen. Emergency alert. Zombie outbreak. I laughed and almost choked on my pasta. Zombie outbreak. Seriously? I kept reading. This is not a drill. Stay inside. Lock all doors and windows. Make no noise. Do not attempt to leave your home. Do not look outside after dark. Then there was a whole list of rules. Don't open doors for anyone. Don't make noise. Stay away from windows. Keep lights off at night. Conserve food and water. Wait for National Guard evacuation. I shook my head and put my phone down. They were getting creative with these test alerts. Last month it was a flash flood warning when it hadn't rained in weeks. Before that, we got an alert about a chemical spill that never happened. The system was always glitching or sending test messages without marking them as tests. Zombies, I muttered, twirling more spaghetti onto my fork. That's a new one. I went back to eating dinner and scrolling. It was just me in my little ranch house on Pine Street, like most nights. Quiet neighborhood, quiet life. I worked from home doing accounting for a manufacturing company, and most days I barely saw anyone except the delivery guy or neighbors walking their dogs. The alert stayed on my screen. I swiped it away and finished my dinner. Probably some tech guy at the emergency alert center was getting fired tonight. Or maybe it was a scheduled test they forgot to label as a test. Either way, not my problem. I rinsed my plate and put it in the dishwasher. My pasta sauce had splattered a little on the counter, so I wiped it up. Normal Tuesday night stuff. Nothing exciting. About 20 minutes after I got the alert, I heard something outside. A weird sound. Kind of like someone groaning, but not quite right. Not like someone hurt themselves, more like, I don't know, just off. I walked to my front window and peeked through the blinds. The streetlights were on, casting yellow pools on the asphalt, and there was Jude Clark, my neighbor from across the street, stumbling, down the middle of the road. Something wasn't right. Jude was always put together, even when he was just taking out the trash. But now his clothes were torn, and there were dark stains all down the front of his shirt. Blood. He was moving weird too, kind of jerky and uncoordinated, like he was drunk. But Jude didn't drink. I watched him stumble and almost fall, then right himself and keep going. He was making that noise I'd heard, this low, constant groan. Jude? I said it quietly, to myself. He couldn't hear me through the window. My phone was still in my hand. I looked down at it, then went back and pulled up that alert again. Read it more carefully this time. Zombie outbreak. I almost laughed again, but the sound died in my throat. Jude didn't look right. He really didn't look right. Outside, the groaning got louder. I went to my front door and looked through the peephole. Jude was at the end of my walkway now, his head tilted at a weird angle. The light from my porch lamp fell across his face, and I could see something was wrong with his eyes. They looked vacant, and his mouth was hanging open, dark with something that looked like blood. My heart started beating faster. This had to be a prank, right? Some elaborate neighborhood thing, maybe tied to that alert, a test of the emergency system with some community participation or something. Then I remembered Norman Gregory, my neighbor from 2 doors down, coming to my house last night, pounding on the door. He'd been frantic, saying something was wrong with his wife Molly. She'd gotten sick suddenly, with a high fever, and then she'd attacked him. I told him to call 911, but he just kept saying, "They won't come. Nobody's coming." Then he'd run off before I could do anything. I hadn't seen either of them today. The groaning outside got even louder, and now there were footsteps on my porch. Heavy, dragging footsteps. That's when I realized my front door was unlocked. I never lock it during the day, only at night before bed. "Shit," I whispered and lunged for the deadbolt. I turned it just as something thumped against the door. Hard. Then again. The door shuddered in its frame. I backed away, my pulse pounding in my ears. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a test. The alert was real. I ran through my house, checking every window, making sure they were all locked. The kitchen window over the sink, locked. The dining room windows, locked. The sliding glass door to the backyard, I slid the security bar into place. Outside, I could hear more groaning now. Not just Jude, other voices, if you could call them voices. They didn't sound human anymore. I turned off all the lights as I went. Living room, hallway, bathroom, my home office. Finally, my bedroom at the back of the house. I stepped carefully over the creaky floorboard near my bedroom door, the one that always squeaked no matter how many times I tried to fix it. The noise seemed dangerous now. In my bedroom, I checked the windows and pulled the curtains shut. The groaning outside was getting louder, more of them. I could hear them shuffling around my house, bumping into things in the yard. I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, my phone clutched in my hand, the glow of the screen lighting up my face as I read the alert again. Zombie outbreak. Not a drill, not a test, not a prank. Real. I turned down the volume on my phone and switched it to vibrate. The quiet felt important now, necessary. I remembered the rules from the alert. Make no noise. Stay inside. Lock everything. Something scraped against the side of my house and I held my breath. The scratching wouldn't stop. I pressed my ear against the front door, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. Something was out there, moving back and forth across my porch. The sound was like fingernails, or maybe claws, dragging across the wood. There were wet, snuffling sounds too, like an animal tracking a scent. I pulled my head back and took a few steps away from the door. The emergency alert kept replaying in my mind. Rule number 3, make no noise. I'd been careful about that so far, but rule number 2 was bugging me now. Don't look outside after dark. It was almost completely dark outside. The sun had set maybe 20 minutes ago, and the last bit of purple twilight was fading from the sky. I hadn't turned on any lights inside, so my eyes had adjusted pretty well to the darkness. I could make out the shapes of my furniture, the outline of the hallway, the kitchen counter, but I couldn't see what was making those sounds outside. I walked over to my living room window. The curtains were drawn tight, but there was a small gap where they didn't quite meet in the middle. If I just moved them an inch, I could peek through and maybe see what was on my porch. My fingers touched the fabric, then stopped. The alert had been very specific about not looking outside after dark. But why? What was out there that they didn't want us to see? I let go of the curtain and stepped back. Maybe the rule was there for a reason. Maybe seeing whatever was out there would make me panic, do something stupid. Or maybe whatever was out there could somehow sense being watched. I didn't know, and I wasn't sure I wanted to find out. I sat down on my couch in the dark living room. The scratching at the front door had stopped, but now I could hear groaning sounds again, more of them than before, and louder. They seemed to be coming from all around the house. My phone vibrated in my pocket, making me jump. I pulled it out, squinting at the sudden brightness of the screen. It was a text from my sister, Aria. "Gabe, are you okay? Something crazy is happening downtown. People attacking each other. I'm at home now with doors locked. Call when you can." I started typing a response, my thumbs moving quickly across the screen. "I'm okay. Got emergency alert about zombie outbreak. Sounds insane, but there's something outside my house, making groaning noises. Jude Clark was walking down the street earlier looking messed up. You safe?" I hit send and waited, watching the little dots that showed she was typing back. "Zombie outbreak? WTF? I got no alert. Yes, I'm locked in my apartment. People were running and screaming outside. Saw someone get tackled and, I don't know, bitten. Attacker was acting rabid. Police sirens everywhere, but then they stopped. What's the alert say to do?" I quickly typed out the main points from the alert. "Stay inside. Lock everything. No noise. Don't look outside after dark. Don't open for anyone. Keep lights off at night. Save food, water. Wait for National Guard." She responded immediately. "Holy shit. This is real? Staying put. Let me know if you hear from Mom and Dad." I hadn't even thought about our parents yet. They were on a cruise somewhere in the Caribbean. Maybe they were safe out there on the water. I hoped so. "Will do. Stay safe. Text. Don't call. Need to stay quiet." I put my phone down and took a deep breath. The alert was real. Whatever was happening was real. People attacking each other downtown. Jude Clark stumbling down the street. The things outside my house right now. Zombies. The word felt ridiculous, like something from a movie. But that's what the alert had said. A zombie outbreak. And from what Aria had seen downtown, people were attacking and biting each other. I thought about Norman Gregory coming to my door last night, panicked about his wife Molly. He'd said she got sick suddenly, high fever, then attacked him. Emergency services wouldn't respond. I'd assumed he was exaggerating, maybe having some kind of mental health crisis. But what if Molly had been the first? What if whatever this was had started with her? A loud bang on my front door made me nearly jump out of my skin. "Hello? Is anyone home? Please, I need help." It was a man's voice, desperate and frightened. I froze, not making a sound. Rule number 4, don't open doors for anyone. "Please," the voice called again. "It's Norman Gregory from next door. My wife is dead and there's things out here. Please let me in." Norman. So he was still alive, or at least he had been. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. I knew I shouldn't open the door, but maybe I could talk to him through it, find out what was happening. I approached the door cautiously. "Norman?" I called, keeping my voice low. "Are you okay?" "No, please, you have to let me in. They're everywhere and they're not human anymore." His voice cracked. "Please, I'm begging you." I put my hand on the doorknob but didn't turn it. "Norman, I can't open the door. The emergency alert says not to let anyone in. Did you get the alert?" "What?" "No, I don't know about any alert. Please, they're coming. I can see them down the street." He was sobbing now. "Please, I'm not sick, I swear. Molly, she turned into something else. She attacked me, but I got away. I'm not like her, I promise." I pressed my forehead against the door. This was torture. Norman sounded terrified, desperate. But the alert had been clear. Don't open doors for anyone, not even for neighbors. "Norman, listen to me. You need to find somewhere safe to hide. A garage, a shed, anything with a door you can lock. The National Guard is coming. We just have to wait it out." There was silence for a moment. Then, "You're not going to help me?" "I can't open the door. I'm sorry." Another silence. Then something changed in Norman's breathing. It became heavier, wetter somehow. When he spoke again, his voice was different, lower, almost a growl. "Let me in." I stepped back from the door, my blood turning cold. That didn't sound like Norman anymore. A heavy thud hit the door, making it shudder in its frame. Then another, and another. Whatever was out there wasn't knocking anymore. It was throwing itself against the door, trying to break it down. I backed away, moving quickly toward the kitchen. The banging continued, getting more violent. I could hear wood splintering. The door was solid, but I didn't know how long it would hold. I remembered rule number 5. Keep lights off at night. I'd been good about that so far, but I realized I'd left my phone on the coffee table, its screen still glowing. I rushed back to grab it, turning it off just as something crashed against my living room window. The curtains billowed inward as whatever was outside slammed into the glass. The window didn't break, but I heard a crack form. More thuds followed, at different windows around the house. I retreated to my kitchen, staying low and moving quietly. Through the small window above my sink, I could see shadows moving across the blinds, dark figures circling my home, looking for a way in. There were a lot of them, more than I'd thought. I crouched below the counter, making myself as small as possible. The banging continued at my front door, at my windows, at the sliding glass door to my backyard. The whole house seemed to vibrate with their efforts to get in. My phone vibrated again in my hand. Another text from Aria. "They're outside my building now. I can hear them. I'm scared, Gabe." I wanted to call her, to tell her it would be okay, but I knew I couldn't make that kind of noise. And I didn't know if it would be okay. I typed back quickly. "Stay quiet. Stay hidden. I'm dealing with the same. We'll get through this." I tucked my phone into my pocket and listened to the shadows moving around my home, searching for a way to reach me. I slid off the kitchen counter and crouched low, keeping my back against the cabinets. My mind raced through the emergency alert rules again. Stay inside. Keep quiet. Don't look outside after dark. Don't open the door. But what about supplies? I couldn't just sit here all night with nothing. I took a deep breath and moved through my dark house, stepping carefully to avoid making noise. The banging continued at different points around the exterior, sometimes stopping for a minute before starting up again somewhere else. They were testing every possible entry. My bedroom seemed safest, at the back of the house with only one window and a walk-in closet. I made my way there, pausing every few steps to listen. When I reached the hallway leading to my room, I heard glass break somewhere at the front of the house. Shit, I froze. Had they gotten in? Heavy shuffling footsteps and a wet, gurgling moan told me they had. I didn't wait to see what was coming. I darted into my bedroom and quietly closed the door, turning the lock as softly as I could. Now I needed supplies. I grabbed my gym duffel from under the bed and dumped the sweaty clothes onto the floor. Working quickly in the dark, I felt my way to the bathroom connected to my bedroom. I filled the bag with whatever my hands found. Toothbrush, deodorant, toilet paper. Stupid stuff probably, but I wasn't thinking straight. Back in the bedroom, I added clothes, my phone charger, and the power bank from my nightstand. Then I headed for the kitchen. The noises were louder now. Multiple sets of dragging footsteps and constant moaning. They were definitely inside, moving through my living room. I crouched at my bedroom door, listening. They hadn't made it to the hallway yet. I had to risk it. I needed water and food. I eased the door open just enough to slip through and moved down the hall, staying close to the wall. At the end of the hallway, I peeked around the corner. Dark shapes stumbled around my living room, bumping into furniture. I couldn't see faces, just silhouettes moving jerkily in the darkness. 3 of them, maybe 4. The kitchen was just past the living room. I'd have to cross open space to get there. I waited until the shapes moved toward the front door, then slipped along the wall to the kitchen. My heart pounded so hard I was sure they'd hear it. Once in the kitchen, I dropped to my hands and knees and crawled to the pantry. I grabbed what I could feel: boxes of crackers, granola bars, a bag of chips. I shoved them into my duffel, then crawled to the cabinet under the sink where I kept bottled water for emergencies. I grabbed as many as would fit in my bag. Something crashed in the living room, sounded like my coffee table getting knocked over. I froze, then remembered the baseball bat in the hall closet. I needed a weapon. The hall closet was closer to the bedroom than the living room. I crawled back the way I'd come, reached up to the closet door handle, and pulled it open slowly. The bat was right where I'd left it, leaning against the wall. I grabbed it, then felt around and found my heavy-duty flashlight too. As I turned to head back to the bedroom, I saw one of the shapes enter the hallway. It stopped, head tilted oddly, like it was listening. I didn't move, didn't breathe. It shuffled forward, moving past me toward the bedroom. I pressed myself against the wall, gripping the bat so tight my knuckles hurt. It was close enough that I could smell it, like copper and rot. When it passed, I slipped back toward my bedroom, moving as quietly as possible. I made it inside and locked the door again, then dragged my dresser in front of it. It wouldn't hold them for long if they really wanted in, but it might buy me time. The closet seemed like the safest spot. I dragged my supplies in there and pulled the door mostly closed, leaving just enough space to see into the bedroom. Then I sat on the floor, back against the wall, bat across my lap. My phone vibrated. Aria again. Power's going out in parts of my building, people screaming on lower floors. They don't look human anymore, Gabe. Their movements are all wrong. I typed back, "Stay hidden. Follow the alert instructions. Don't open your door for anyone." I'm scared. I know, me too, but we have to stay quiet and wait it out. National Guard is coming. What if they don't get here in time? I didn't have an answer for that. I typed, "Just stay hidden. I'll keep checking in." No response. I sent another message. "Aria?" Nothing. I scrolled back through the emergency alert, looking for anything I might have missed. Rule 6 jumped out at me now. If power goes out, do not leave your secure location. Remain in place. As if on cue, the lights in my house flickered. They'd been off since sunset, but I could see the digital clock on my bedside table blinking. Then it went dark completely. Total blackout. Outside, car alarms started going off all down the street. I heard glass breaking from multiple directions, distant screaming. The moaning got louder, more numerous. It sounded like dozens of them now, maybe more, all around the neighborhood. I tried Aria again. No response. The power being out meant my phone would eventually die. I had the power bank, but that wouldn't last forever. I switched my phone to ultra power saving mode and turned the brightness all the way down. Something banged against my bedroom door, making the dresser scrape a few inches across the floor. I pushed myself deeper into the closet, gripping the bat. Another bang, harder this time. The dresser moved again. I closed the closet door completely and wedged myself between my hanging clothes, making myself as small as possible. The banging continued, getting more frantic. Then I heard wood splintering as something broke through the door. Heavy, dragging footsteps entered my bedroom. Snuffling, wet breathing. Something knocked over my nightstand. Glass shattered, probably my lamp. The footsteps moved around the room, bumping into things, getting closer to the closet. I held my breath, clutched the bat, waited. The closet door handle rattled. I raised the bat, ready to swing if the door opened. But then something crashed elsewhere in the house, and whatever was in my bedroom shuffled away, drawn by the new noise. The bedroom door creaked as it left. I let out my breath slowly, still holding the bat ready. I wasn't safe, but I'd gotten lucky. This time. Hours passed. I dozed off a few times, jolting awake at every new noise. The moaning outside never stopped. Sometimes it would fade a bit, then grow louder again, like they were moving in waves through the neighborhood. I checked my phone periodically. No messages from Arya. The battery was at 60%. Around what must have been 3 or 4 in the morning, I heard new sounds. Helicopters, the steady thump of rotors passing overhead. Then engines, big ones, like trucks or tanks, military vehicles. I cracked the closet door and listened. A voice on a bullhorn, too distant to make out words at first. Then it got closer. "Attention citizens, this is the National Guard. Remain in your homes. Do not attempt to leave. We are establishing a perimeter. Repeat, remain in your homes. Do not attempt to leave." Relief flooded through me. Help had arrived. But the message wasn't exactly reassuring. They weren't evacuating us, just establishing a perimeter, whatever that meant. The helicopter sounds continued circling the area. I heard more announcements, some closer, some farther away, all with the same message: stay inside. As dawn approached, my phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. The screen showed Dad. My parents were calling. I hesitated, worried about making noise. But the things in my house seemed to have moved on, and I needed to know my parents were okay. I answered, keeping my voice to a whisper. "Dad? Gabriel." My father's voice was loud with relief. "Thank God. We've been trying to reach you for hours." I had to stay quiet, I whispered. "They're attracted to noise." "Where are you? Are you safe?" "In my closet. There's things in the house, but I'm okay for now. National Guard just showed up. We know. We've been listening to the radio. It's happening everywhere, son. Not just there." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean everywhere?" "The whole region, maybe beyond. Reports are spotty. The cruise ship turned around. We're headed back to port. Your mother's here. She wants to talk to you." There was rustling. Then my mom's voice came on the line. "Gabriel, are you hurt?" "I'm okay, Mom. Just scared. Have you heard from Arya?" A pause. "No, we've been trying her too. Nothing." I closed my eyes. She was texting me earlier. Said there were those things in her building. Then she stopped responding. The radio said the downtown area was hit first. My father said back on the line. "Heaviest concentration there." What exactly are they saying on the radio? Is it really zombies? The word felt ridiculous coming out of my mouth. They're not using that word. They're calling it an aggressive contagion that affects the brain, causes violent behavior. They're saying not to approach anyone showing symptoms. Jerky movements, discoloration, vacant expressions. That's what I saw. My neighbor Jude. And I think Norman from next door. He turned too. He was at my door, begging to be let in. Then his voice changed. Started attacking my door. Jesus. My dad went quiet for a moment. The reports say they're not themselves anymore. Whatever this thing is, it takes over completely. My mom's voice came through faintly in the background, asking something I couldn't make out. "Your mother wants to know if you have food, water," my dad said. "Some." I grabbed supplies before barricading in the closet. Water bottles, crackers, granola bars. "Good. The guard is saying it could be days before they clear areas for evacuation. They're setting up safe zones, but they have to secure them first." "What about you guys? When will your ship dock?" "Tomorrow morning," they're saying. "The captain's in contact with the Coast Guard. They'll escort us in, take us to a quarantine facility to make sure no one on board is infected." I heard the helicopter sounds growing louder again outside. The National Guard was still circling the area. "Gabriel," my mom said, back on the phone. "Try to reach Arya again. Maybe her phone died or lost signal. Keep trying." "I will. And I'll stay put like they're saying." I paused. "I'm glad you guys are safe." "We'll get through this," my dad said, his voice firm but strained. "Just follow the instructions. Do exactly what they say. We'll be in touch as soon as we dock." "Okay, I love you guys." "We love you too, son," my mom said, her voice breaking slightly. After we hung up, I sat in the dark closet, baseball bat still across my lap, listening to the helicopters and military vehicles outside. The dead, or whatever they were, kept making their awful noises, but they seemed more distant now. Maybe the guard was pushing them back. I tried calling Arya again, straight to voicemail. I sent another text, hoping it would go through when her phone reconnected. National Guard is here. Mom and Dad are safe on their cruise ship. Please let me know you're okay. I leaned my head back against the closet wall, exhausted but too wired to sleep. The emergency alert had been right about everything. This was real. Not a test, not a glitch in the system. And from what my parents said, it was worse than I'd imagined. Not just my neighborhood, not just the city, the whole region. I closed my eyes and listened to the helicopters circling overhead, wondering what the world would look like when I finally left this closet. I woke up to silence. That was the weird thing about day 7, how quiet it got. The first few days there'd been constant noise, moaning, shuffling, things breaking. But now, nothing. I leaned against the closet wall and listened hard. Maybe they'd moved on to somewhere with more food. Maybe the National Guard had cleared them out. Either way, I wasn't complaining. My stomach growled. I looked at my supplies, 3 granola bars, half a pack of crackers, and 2 bottles of water. Not great. I'd been careful with what I had, eating just enough to keep going. 1 small meal in the morning, another at night. The hunger was constant now, a dull ache I couldn't shake. I checked my phone. 28% battery. I'd kept it off most of the time, only turning it on twice a day to check for messages from Arya or my parents. Nothing new since Dad called 4 days ago. The last text from Arya was still unread. A helicopter passed overhead, close enough to make the walls vibrate. They came by a few times a day now. Sometimes there'd be an announcement over a loudspeaker about secure zones and evacuation plans. Always the same message: stay put, help is coming. I'd stopped getting excited about it. I stretched my legs as much as the closet allowed. My back hurt from sleeping sitting up, and my right foot had fallen asleep again. I wiggled my toes until the pins and needles sensation faded. The bedroom was a mess. I'd peeked out a few times when things got quiet, just to grab something or use the bathroom. The dresser was still against the door, but the door itself had a splintered hole about halfway up. Whatever had tried to get in hadn't managed to squeeze through, but it had done a good job wrecking the place. The lamp was in pieces on the floor, and the bedsheets were pulled half off the mattress. I picked up the baseball bat and stood, careful not to make noise. My legs were stiff from sitting so long. I pushed the closet door open an inch and listened. Nothing. I stepped into the bedroom and froze, waiting. Still nothing. It had been like this for 2 days now. The moaning had gotten more distant, then stopped completely yesterday. I hadn't heard anything moving inside the house since the night before. I moved the dresser just enough to peek through the hole in the door. The hallway was empty. I pushed the dresser further and squeezed through the gap, bat ready. The house smelled musty and stale. I moved down the hallway, stepping over the creaky floorboard, and checked the living room. Empty. The front window was broken, glass all over the floor. The kitchen was a mess. Cabinets open, some food packages torn open. But no movement, no sounds. I went back to the bedroom and gathered my supplies into the duffel bag. Better to have everything ready, just in case. I took a small sip of water and ate half a granola bar, saving the rest for later. Around noon, another helicopter flew over, lower this time. The announcement was different. Attention citizens. This is the National Guard. We are conducting house-to-house searches in your area. If you are safe and uninfected, stay where you are. Help is coming. Repeat, stay where you are. I went to the bedroom window and looked out for the first time in days. The street looked empty except for a few abandoned cars. No movement. The sky was bright blue, like nothing had changed. Day 8 was the same. Quiet outside, helicopters overhead, the same announcements. I rationed another granola bar and finished 1 bottle of water, battery down to 23%. On day 9, I heard gunshots in the distance. They came in bursts, then stopped. Military, probably. I stayed in the closet most of the day, only coming out to use the bathroom and stretch my legs. The morning of day 10, I woke to voices, human voices, not the moaning sounds from before, actual talking. I froze, listening hard. Check that house next. Be careful. Doors open. Copy that. Moving to position. I got up, grabbing the bat. These weren't recorded announcements. These were people, right outside. Clear the perimeter first. A woman's voice called out. "Standard procedure." "Yes, Sergeant." More voices, more movement. Boots on pavement. I heard the distinctive sound of weapons being handled. Military, had to be. I moved to the bedroom window and looked out. 4 soldiers in full gear were moving up the street. They stopped at each house, checked doors and windows. One of them was a woman, giving orders to the others. She had her hair pulled back tight, and even from here I could see she was scanning everything, missing nothing. "This one's secure," one of the soldiers called, pointing at my neighbor's house. "Move to the next," the woman replied. They were coming my way. I should call out, let them know I was here. But what if it was a trick? What if it wasn't really the National Guard? I thought about the alert. Rule 4, don't open doors for anyone. But these were soldiers. This had to be the evacuation we'd been waiting for. I watched as they approached my house. They stopped at the broken front window, weapons ready. "Breach point," one of them said. "Check for movement." The woman, the sergeant, held up her hand. "Hello? Anyone inside? This is Sergeant Warner with the National Guard. We're conducting rescue operations. If you're in there and uninfected, please identify yourself." I hesitated, then moved through the house toward the front door, still clutching the bat. I stood behind the door, not opening it. "Hello?" I called, my voice rough from days of not talking. "I'm here. I'm alone and I'm not infected." "Sir, please identify yourself," the sergeant called back. "Gabriel Hill. I live here. I've been inside since the emergency alert." "Are you injured, Mr. Hill?" "No, just hungry and tired." "Are there any other occupants in the house?" "No, just me." There was a pause, then, "Mr. Hill, we need to secure the area before you come out. Please stay inside until I give the all clear." "Okay." I heard them moving around outside, checking the yard, the sides of the house. After a few minutes, the sergeant's voice came again. "Mr. Hill, I'm going to ask you to open the door slowly and step outside with your hands visible. Can you do that?" "Yes," I said, setting down the bat. My hand shook as I reached for the doorknob. I hadn't unlocked this door in 10 days. I turned the deadbolt and pulled the door open slowly. Bright sunlight hit my eyes, making me squint. I raised my hands and stepped onto the porch. 4 soldiers stood in my front yard, weapons at the ready, but not pointed at me. The sergeant, Warner, she'd said, stood closest to the house. She was maybe mid-30s, her face tanned and serious. "Mr. Hill," she said, "I'm Sergeant Irene Warner. We're conducting evacuation operations in this sector. Are you certain you're uninjured?" "Yes," I said. "I've been hiding in my closet since the outbreak started. I haven't been outside until now." She nodded. "We need to get you to the evacuation point. Do you have any essential belongings you need to bring?" "Yes, in my bedroom." "Jenkins, go with Mr. Hill to collect his things. 5 minutes max." She turned back to me. "Only what you absolutely need, sir. 1 bag." I led the soldier, Jenkins, back through the house to my bedroom. He stood in the doorway, watching as I grabbed my duffel bag from the closet. "You've been in there the whole time?" he asked, looking at the small space. "Most of it," I said, "after they broke in." He nodded, understanding. "Smart. They can't work doorknobs." I added my phone charger and the last water bottle to the bag, then zipped it up. That's it. We went back outside where Sergeant Warner was talking on a radio. She turned to me when she saw us. "Transport will be here in 10 minutes, she said. "We're taking civilians to the secure zone in Colorado Springs." For the first time, I really looked at my street. It was like a war zone. Cars abandoned in the middle of the road, some with doors open, trash and debris everywhere, dark stains on the pavement that I didn't want to think about too much. A few houses had broken windows like mine. Others looked untouched. "What happened?" I asked, though it was a stupid question. Warner gave me a level look. "The contagion spread faster than anyone expected. We've contained it now, but not eliminated it. There are still infected individuals in the region." "How many people?" I couldn't finish the question. "We're still assessing casualties," she said. "The good news is, many people like you followed the alert instructions and survived. We've evacuated over 2,000 from this sector already." "My sister, she lives downtown, Aria Hill. Have you found her?" Warner shook her head. "I don't have that information, sir. But they've been clearing downtown for 3 days now. If she's sheltered in place, there's a good chance she's been evacuated already." A military truck turned onto our street, moving slowly around the abandoned vehicles. "That's our transport," Warner said. We'll take you to the processing center. They'll help you locate your family members." I looked back at my house as we walked to the truck. 10 days ago, it had been normal. Now the front window was shattered, the door splintered, bloodstains on the porch steps. "What about the infected?" I asked. "What happens to them?" Warner's face showed nothing. "Containment protocols are in effect. That's all I can say." The truck stopped, and Warner helped me climb into the back where 6 other people sat on benches. Neighbors, maybe, though I didn't recognize any of them. They looked like I felt exhausted, dirty, shell-shocked. As we drove away, I saw cleanup crews moving through the neighborhood. They wore hazmat suits and carried body bags. Down one side street, I glimpsed them loading something into a large container. I looked away. Warner sat across from me. "You did well, Mr. Hill. Not many people follow all the rules. That's usually what gets them killed." The truck turned onto the main road heading out of the subdivision. Through the back flap, I could see my neighborhood getting smaller. The broken windows, the empty houses, the crews removing what was left of the infected. The truck rolled into a massive parking lot outside what used to be Colorado Springs Convention Center. Rows of military tents stretched across the grounds where I'd once attended a work conference 2 years ago. People moved between checkpoints, soldiers, medical staff in scrubs, shell-shocked civilians like me carrying whatever they'd managed to grab before evacuation. "Processing center," Warner said as the truck stopped. "Everyone out." We climbed down, my legs stiff from sitting. The 6 other survivors huddled together while I stood apart, clutching my duffel bag. Warner led us toward a large tent with a sign, "Intake and Registration." "Follow the green markers," she instructed. "Give your name at each checkpoint. They'll help you locate family if they've been processed." My heart jumped at that. My sister, Aria Hill, downtown area. And my parents might be here by now too. Warner nodded. "Check the database inside. Good luck, Mr. Hill." I joined a line of about 30 people. The woman ahead of me kept wiping her eyes. The man behind coughed every few minutes, making everyone tense until a medical worker confirmed it was just a cold. Nobody spoke much. What was there to say? We'd all seen the same things. Inside the tent, rows of tables stretched with workers typing at laptops. I reached the front and gave my information to a tired-looking man in a polo shirt with a government ID badge. "Gabriel Hill, 32, Ridgemont Heights Subdivision." I handed him my driver's license. "I'm looking for my sister, Aria Hill, and my parents, Mario and Tammy Hill," he typed, eyes on the screen. Hill. Aria Hill was processed 3 days ago, currently in Residential Section B, Tent 47. He kept typing. "Mario and Tammy Hill arrived yesterday morning from quarantine, Residential Section C, Tent 12. My knees nearly gave out. "They're all here? They're okay?" "According to our records." He handed me a map and wristband. "Yellow band means you've been initially screened but need medical clearance. Follow the yellow path to medical, then you'll be assigned housing." I barely heard the rest of his instructions. They were alive. All of them. Medical screening took 2 hours. Temperature checks, blood tests, questions about exposure. I answered everything mechanically, still processing that my family had made it. Finally, a doctor signed off on my paperwork. "You're clear. No signs of infection." She handed me a green wristband to replace the yellow one. "Green path to housing assignment, then you can access the family location system to find your relatives." The housing tent was chaos. Hundreds of people waiting for assignments. I spotted a separate desk with a sign, "Family Reunification." I pushed my way there, showed my paperwork. "My family's already here. Can I be placed with them?" The woman checked my information. "We can add you to their tent if space permits. Sections B and C are on opposite sides of the facility, though." "My sister's in B, parents in C." She frowned. "We can only place you in one location." "B then. My sister's alone." 20 minutes later, I had a map to Section B, Tent 47. I walked through a makeshift city of identical white tents, people sitting outside on folding chairs, lines for food and water. Children played between tents while adults spoke in hushed voices. Military personnel patrolled the perimeters. I found Tent 47 and stood outside, suddenly nervous. What if the records were wrong? What if something had happened after she was processed? "Aria!" I called, unzipping the tent flap. A figure bolted upright from a cot. "Gabe?" And then she was in my arms, sobbing against my shoulder. her hands gripping the back of my shirt so tight I felt her fingernails through the fabric. She looked thinner, her blonde hair tangled and unwashed, but alive. So alive. "I thought," she started, then broke down again. "I know." I held her tighter. "Me too." We sat on her cot, and she told me everything. She'd been at her apartment downtown when it started. No emergency alert, just screaming in the streets. She'd locked herself in her bathroom with a kitchen knife when infected broke into her building. "I heard them in my apartment," she said, voice hollow. "They tore everything apart looking for me. I sat in the bathtub for 2 days before National Guard cleared the building. I was too scared to even text you back." "But you followed the rules," I said. "Stay inside, keep quiet, don't open the door." She nodded. "Just common sense, I guess. What about you?" I told her about the alert, about Jude Clark and Norman Gregory, about hiding in my closet for 10 days. She listened, gripping my hand. "Mom and Dad are here too," I said when I finished. "Section C." Her eyes widened. "Really? When can we see them?" "Now if you want. I got this map." We walked across the facility, past medical tents and supply stations. Guards checked our wristbands at checkpoints. Everyone looked tired but purposeful. This massive operation had been assembled in days. Section C had larger tents for families. We found Tent 12 and called out before entering. Mom's voice broke on my name. She rushed out, pulling both of us into her arms, sobbing, my babies," over and over. Dad stood behind her, eyes red, face unshaven, looking older than I remembered but smiling through tears. We crowded into their tent, all talking at once. They'd been on the cruise ship when news broke. The captain had kept them at sea an extra week while the military secured the port. "Coast Guard escorted us in," Dad said. "We were in quarantine for 3 days before they brought us here. The ship was safer than land," Mom added. "But we were sick with worry about you two." "The emergency alert saved me," I said. "Did you get anything like that on the ship?" Dad shook his head. "Just announcements from the captain. Basic stuff. Stay in cabins. Report any illness immediately." "What about you?" I asked Arya. "Why didn't you get the alert?" "They said later it was targeted by location," she explained. "Downtown cell towers went down first, so the emergency system rerouted to working sectors. By the time they got to downtown, it was too late for most people." We talked for hours, comparing notes, filling gaps. Mom cried when I described hiding in the closet. Dad's jaw tightened when Arya talked about the bathroom, but we were alive, all of us, when so many weren't. That evening we ate together in the massive dining tent. Hundreds of survivors lined up for hot food, the first proper meal I'd had in days. We found a table in the corner and sat quietly, watching the crowd. A man at the next table noticed us and nodded. "Your whole family made it. That's rare." "We got lucky," Dad said. The man shook his head. "Not luck, smart. Most families got separated trying to find each other. The ones who stayed put had the best chance." He was right. Over the next few days we heard countless stories. People who ignored the alert, thinking it was a prank. People who looked outside after dark. People who opened doors for loved ones who were already infected. People who left secure locations when the power went out. The rules had seemed arbitrary, even ridiculous at first, but each had a specific purpose that saved lives. A month passed. The facility became more organized. They moved us to a converted hotel as the military expanded the safe zone. Regular announcements updated us on containment efforts. Infected numbers decreasing, more areas secured, reconstruction beginning. 3 months after evacuation, we sat in our hotel room watching the first regular television broadcast since everything happened. The news anchor looked exhausted but professional as she reported the official numbers. Authorities now confirm the contagion has been contained in all major population centers. Of an estimated 12 million people in the affected region, approximately 4 million survived. Government officials credit the emergency alert system with saving over 2 million lives. Those who followed all protocols had a survival rate of 87% compared to less than 20% for those who did not. 4 million out of 12. 2/3 of the population gone in less than 2 weeks. "I keep wondering who sent that alert," I said during the commercial break. "It wasn't standard procedure. Someone knew exactly what was happening and what would work. Whoever it was saved your life," Mom said, squeezing my hand. "And thousands of others," Dad added. 6 months after my evacuation, I stood in line at a grocery store that had just reopened. The shelves weren't fully stocked, but there was fresh produce, bread, even coffee. The woman at the register wore a mask, not for infection, but habit now. We all kept our distance, even though the danger had passed. My phone buzzed, a flash flood warning for areas south of the city. Before, I would have ignored it, swiped it away without reading the details. Now I stopped, read every word, checked the affected areas carefully before putting my phone away. Walking home to our temporary apartment, I passed a memorial wall covered with photos of the lost. So many faces, so many people who might have lived if they'd received the alert, or if they'd believed it when they did. I never found out who sent that original message, the one with those 8 specific rules that kept me alive when everything fell apart. Some said it was a government scientist who understood the contagion's patterns. Others thought it was military intelligence acting faster than official channels. A few even suggested someone had seen this happen before, somewhere else. Whoever it was knew exactly what would work. Stay inside, lock everything, make no noise. Don't look outside after dark. Don't open doors for anyone. Keep lights off at night. Conserve food and water. Wait for evacuation. Those rules saved me, saved Arya, probably saved Mom and Dad too. They went against every instinct, to run, to help others, to seek information. But following them was the difference between life and death. Now, when my phone buzzes with an alert, I read it. I follow the instructions. I don't second guess or assume it's an overreaction, because sometimes the most outlandish warnings are exactly the ones you need to take seriously.